Yuval Harari argues that the bigger picture revolves around two big choices. The first is between totalitarian surveillance and citizen empowerment, and the second is between nationalist isolation and global solidarity.
Part of video, there are two main arguments in this video mentioned. The first one is to focus on citizenship empowerment than totalitarian surveillance. And the second one is that it is important to choose global solidarity rather than nationalist isolation.
Governments have already introduced new surveillance tools to tackle the pandemic. China, for example, has employed mobile apps, close monitoring of smartphones, and hundreds of millions of facial recognition cameras, and measures such as forcing people to check and report their body temperature in order to identify coronavirus carriers, track their movements, and identify anyone they come in contact with. Israel's security agency has now been allowed to deploy counter-terrorist cyber tracking technology to surveil coronavirus patients. This kind of system, authorities would know that you are sick even before you do, and they would also know where you have been and who you have met or who you've interacted with. A system like this would basically give authorities access to information that will only use during an emergency. History has shown repeatedly that emergency decrees can often be extended well beyond what was initially intended.
From this part of the video, it is mentioned that China and Israel have the ability to track their people information in order to identify the virus. It doesn't say in the video, but we think that it would create the invasion of the people information. For this reason, we think that it doesn't meet the right of the people is the underlying premise of this argument.
Harari points out the importance of choosing global solidarity rather than nationalist isolation. And now I'm quoting Yuval Harari. He says, countries should be willing to share information openly and humbly seek advice, and should be able to trust the data and the insights they receive. We also need a global effort to produce and distribute medical equipment, most notably testing kits and respiratory machines. And it doesn't only depend on the wealth of the country, more its ability to help. For example, we've witnessed the value of Cuban doctors, a country which, although under sanctions, has been able to extend help as far as Italy. And I'm quoting Yuval Harari again, and he says, countries need to cooperate in order to allow at least a trickle of essential travelers to continue crossing borders. Scientists, doctors, journalists, politicians, business people, this can be done by reaching a global agreement on the pre-screening of travelers by their home country. But this could be due to the lack of global leadership present at the moment, particularly if we look at the US. The 2008 and even the recent Ebola crisis, the US was a global leader.
And from this part, the reporter said that the US was the main leadership during the Ebola crisis, unlike now, which he also mentioned that Trump administration had a lack of leadership during this crisis. On the other hand, Cuban doctors can extend help as far as Italy. In this case, we think that the underlying premise is that it depends on the ability to help and the cooperation among the countries to alleviate this crisis.
It doesn't say that why choosing one another is better choice to make. It just says about the core of choosing the other ones. Totalitarian surveillance is a governmental security organization for spying any unusual circumstance and prevent privacy rights, whether it is crime, terrorism, or any social issue with limit boundary of the law using CCTV or social media for observe. Moreover, nationalist isolation is when the country uses policy of remaining apart from the affairs or interests of other groups, especially the political affairs of other countries. It might help increase focus on domestic policy.
We assume that the agreement commits fallacies, since it only says the cons of choosing the other choices between tools. It convinced us to agree with the argument he made in the video. In this video, we can examine that the proof of this argument is a secondary source because the person in the clip is not involved in the government mentioned in the clip. He just reported about it. There is also the quote said by Yuval Harari related to the agreement, which is the proof material for this agreement. The summary of this video can be concluded that Yuval Harari agrees that the bigger picture revolves around two big choices. The first is between totalitarian surveillance and citizens' empowerment. The reporter does not say that citizen empowerment is better, but he talks about the cons of totalitarian surveillance. and the second one is between nationalist isolation and global solidarity. The reporter reported the disadvantages of nationalist isolation to convince us to choose the other side, which is global solidarity.